Hi my beautiful cherry blossoms, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Fiona and I like to make stuff and document it for you. I like to document for you. In today's video, I'm gonna be making a cardigan. Well, I've been making it since January, so I'm finally done. And I'm so happy I get to share it with you. So you can make your own cardigan. A little disclaimer here, this isn't a tutorial. I'm not going to be giving you a pattern because I like to just wing it, and I think that's the beauty about making your own stuff. Figuring out your own patterns, what you like, what you don't, what fits your body right, and that's what I usually do. So for my cardigan, I was inspired by this creator and crocheter. She is called Carolani on Instagram. I'm gonna link her below. She makes beautiful things. I was inspired by this cardigan that she made, and so I came up with my own design. This is kind of what I made. And I had chosen 3 yarns to do this with, and as you can see on the picture there is many different patterns, and I also chose to do different stitch patterns for each panel, or some different stitch panels. And I started out by doing some little samples of that. So I was gonna do a houndstooth pattern, so I tried that out with my yarn, and then I was also gonna do like a checkered thing and like a pattern kind of thing. So I tried that out too. And then I also tried out this boblet stitch, is what it's called. I am going to be linking some tutorials for all of these stitch patterns down below, so you can figure those out for yourself too. Anyway, since I have never actually made any ribbing before, it was actually a bit of a trial and error for me too, which is why it actually took since January, so like 3 months. But I'm very happy for what I've learned, and I'm gonna try to explain it to you through this whole video. So let's get started. Alrighty, so here is my drawing again, and also a description of where I used which stitch pattern. Here are the stitch patterns up close. This one's the boblet. Very cute. I also used the single crochets, but in sort of a graph pattern thing. And then there is the houndstooth. And I also used the lemon peel, which is basically just the houndstooth stitch pattern without changing colors. And it looks very cute. Now to the ribbing. I made some single crochet back loop only ribbing, and I'm gonna show you how I did that. I started out by making a chain of 10 or 11 with the turning chain. Then I went into the back loop of each chain. I actually went into the back of the chain, but that doesn't matter. You can do it just in the normal. After the first row, I chained 1, turned my work, and went into each back loop of the single crochet again all the way down. And I did that for as long as I needed. So after I had finished my ribbing, I went into each rib. So I had like 32 rows of ribbing. I went into each of those once. So I had 32 single crochets on top. And if I needed to increase it for some reason, I will do that in the next round. Here are the final measurements, or the final amount of rows I used for each panel. This is not an accurate picture. This is before I realized that I made everything too big. You can also see I put a ton of stitches in the top of these ribbing pieces. As I said, only put as many as you have ribbing rows. to the front. Here are the measurements that I calculated for myself. And I started out by grabbing the ribbing for my front piece, and for this one I was gonna do the boblet stitch, and I'm gonna show you how to do that right now. Firstly, you're gonna need a row of single crochets, which I did here, also changing the color. Now you want to grab your work, make one single crochet, and then into the next stitch you want to go in, come up, make a chain, and then another and another. And after that you want to finish your stitch like so. You can see what I'm doing. And then to make that last, you're gonna put another single crochet and then another of those chain 3 into the next stitch, and then another single crochet, and so on and so forth. And then you have these little loop-de-doops. They are only gonna come together after you do another round of single crochets on top, which is what I'm doing right now. So in each stitch, you're gonna make a single crochet. And then you're gonna see it come together a little bit more. And for the next round, I just made sure to make each boblet into the opposite, so they would be not all directly above each other. Anyway, this is the finished piece, and I scrapped it because it was way too big. You will notice this is a reoccurring thing. Now for the other side of my front panel, I am going to be making a graph pattern. I used Stitch Fiddle to draw that out for myself, and the blue line here, or the blue pixels, are where I need to decrease to make the neckline. For me, each square represents a single crochet, and I am going to count my stitches and make sure I get all of those right. It's not actually as difficult as you would imagine. It was very easy after I did like the first couple of rows. And I decided to always carry my yarn between. You just want to put it right between where you single crochet. And when you come to change a color, you want to end that stitch with the new color. Like the last stitch of your old color, you want to end with the new color. And then you want to pull tight, make sure it doesn't fly around, and take the old color along with you until you reach the next part of that flower, I guess. And here you can see my graph is lining up, and that's how it's supposed to be. Now I've actually finished both of these panels. They are almost the same width. I think we're good. Now to the back, I started by doing the checkered pattern, which I basically did the exact same thing for as the flower pattern when changing color. I simply made sure I divided my stitches by 5 or whatever is gonna be even. I also always carried my yarn through. As you can see, my purple yarn is slightly thinner than the other two, the black and the white, but it worked out fine. and then I finished that piece. I also finished another back piece with that kitten on it. As you can see, they are rather different sizes, but I somehow ignored that and went ahead and sewed them together. And I did all of the sewing of each of these panels. I put them right sides together and I did a sort of an overstitch. So I would go into the stitch and go over and over and over. And it looks pretty good, except that it was too big. You can see I placed these together and I actually only pinned those before I tried it on, which was a great idea because obviously it didn't fit. And all of this part, all of this middle part thing was way too much and it looked really weird on like my back. So I'm gonna be undoing both of these back panels and redoing them better actually. I'm gonna get rid of the cat. That made everything way too wide. Yes, I'm again doing the checks and I'm just going to do a solid black panel for the other side. Here I actually sewed it together already because nobody needs to see that. I tried it on and it fit really well actually. It's a little bit an off-shoulder thing. I did that on purpose. And yeah, it was time to do the sleeves. Now for the sleeves. Here are the measurements. I actually made a ton of single crochets inside into the ribbing so that it would go out immediately and then I could go straight up until the armhole part. Here is how to do the houndstooth pattern. You have your 2 yarns and you just want to start with a single crochet and then do a double crochet. I'm always carrying my yarn along in between. I actually make sure not to pull the yarn too tight. Anyway, this is just how you do it, and you go all the way in the one color. And then when you switch colors, you just make sure that you put the double crochet in the previous single crochet and the single crochet in the previous double crochet. That's also the same pattern I did for the other sleeve, which is called a lemon peel stitch, but it's the same as I already said. And now it's time to sew the sleeves onto my bodice piece. I actually like to do that before I sew up the side seams because it's easier. So yeah, the sleeves are gigantic, but they're very cute, and that's what I meant to do. I again sewed these on in the same manner as before with the sort of overstitch. And as you can see, it looks pretty good. So I also put on the other sleeve. And with the houndstooth, you can decide which side you would like. They look a little different. One is more black and the other one is more white. And finally, you want to put right sides together and sew all the way along the sleeve and then along the side seam. I always start at the armpit so that everything will be even. Here's a little sneak peek. All that's left is to do the ribbing along the front and the neck. But first I need to do a row of single crochets in each stitch along the neckline This just makes it much easier to add the ribbing. I also changed colors halfway in the back neck to give it the look that I wanted. Now for the ribbing you add onto those single crochet stitches, I actually decided to do less than 10. I think I did 8 or 7. And you just want to start with a chain, go in each back loop with a single crochet all the way down. And when you reach the bottom, I just made a decrease of 2. So I went into the first single crochet and then the next one, and I pulled those 2 together. Then I turned my work and did another row of back loop only single crochets. And when I was at the top, I made a chain and went all the way back down with those back loop only single crochets. Again, when I was at the bottom, I grabbed 2 of those single crochets and crocheted them together and then turned my work. Now for the buttonholes, I actually just finished the ribbing without doing those, so I had to undo it, and this is how I did those. When I am at the bottom of my ribbing, so at the base of my ribbing basically, I grab my hook. I actually go not into the back loop only, I go into both loops. Then I make a chain of 3, because that's how big the button is. Then I skip those 3 crochets and I go into the next 2, not back loop, both loops. Then I make a chain, I turn my work, and now I'm actually going into the back loop only of each of the next stitches, even into the chain that I made previously. This worked pretty well for me. And when I was at the bottom again, I crocheted 2 of those single crochets together again and just went up until the next buttonhole, or until the end. This is what my buttonholes looked like. I made 4 and I had those beautiful buttons, and the last thing to do is to sew them on. I actually sewed them on really well so they wouldn't hang down because they're quite heavy. And now for the final reveal, here is my cardigan. I think it came out super unique and I will wear it often, so yeah. Thank you all so much for watching. Please subscribe, hit the like, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
in that skirt that been grabbing you.